Hi everyone, a few videos ago I talked about how, according to Greek legend, the Greeks, led by Teucer, conquered Cyprus along with King Belus of Tyre, and that eventually led to the founding of Salamis, founded by Teucer. Now what's significant about this is that, according to my chronology, that should have happened just after the year 700 BCE. But of course we know very well who the kings of Tyre were in that time period. Basically from the start of the first millennium BCE, we have a very good idea of who the kings of Tyre were. So if this conquest of Cyprus by Teucer of the Greeks and King Belus of Tyre really did happen, and if it really did happen when I think it did, in about 700 BCE, then it should be very easy to find Belus in the historical list of kings of Tyre. Now, is that true? Can we find him? Or is King Belus just this enigmatic figure who was either fictional or I've got my chronology all wrong? For some reason, it didn't even occur to me to look into that when I made that previous video. But when I did look into it, I was pretty pleased with what I found. So as it happens, the king who fits in exactly in the right chronological place to be the King Belus of the story was a king called King Baal. King Baal I, that was his name, but to the Greeks, Baal could easily be rendered as Belus. And this isn't my original idea, by the way. But the point is, he fits in exactly in the right time to be King Belus. If you look online, you'll find that the dates for his reign are given as 680 to 660. But my chronology, which follows the Bible's chronology, would move that 31 years earlier. So in other words, his reign started in 711 and continued until 691. So that would mean that his reign perfectly straddled the Trojan War, according to my chronology. The Trojan War would have ended in about 695 or thereabouts. So the last few years of his reign would tie in very well with him being the king who Teucer helped to conquer Cyprus. Now, as it happens, even more so, we actually know historically that King Baal I of Tyre helped the Assyrians to conquer Cyprus, to firmly establish their rule there. His navy was involved in an invasion and conquest of Cyprus. So this ties in perfectly with the legend of King Belus after the Trojan War, shortly after the Trojan War, engaging in a conquest of Cyprus, along with Teucer. And as I explained in my previous video on this subject, we do in fact find evidence of a Greek settlement emerging at Salamis, exactly where Teucer was said to have founded it at this time. So everything from Teucer and the Greeks founding Salamis at this time, to the Phoenicians being involved, because Phoenician archaeological traces are found at Salamis at that time. Everything involving Belus and Baal and the invasion and conquest of Cyprus, it all ties in perfectly. Whereas when we look in the Bronze Age, in the Mycenaean era, I'm not aware of any evidence for this legend being historical in that era. I'm not aware of any trace of a King Belus who engaged in a conquest of Cyprus in the traditional date of the Trojan War at the end of the Bronze Age. Whereas when we look in around 700 BCE, we find so much evidence supporting it. So I'm very confident that King Baal I was in fact the historical King Belus from Greek mythology who engaged in this conquest of Cyprus along with Teucer. Now here's another interesting question. Was King Mark of Cornwall really the same as Count Conomor of Brittany, as many online sources say? Or is this just a modern fanciful explanation? Well, come back for my next video to see the answer.